Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Chasing Rank. Hopefully you are doing well. It's another Tuesday, so that means we are back with another live stream. Tonight with me, it's just Damo, back to the vintage old days of our podcast. Mate, how you going?
Not bad, mate. Not bad. Good old PD Sports podcast days. What a legend. I still get the occasional message to bring that one back. Anyhow, doing well. Fantasy wise, look, it's not been great, and we're both on the slide, but there's more to life than fantasy football, and life at the moment is going really well. For those that can probably see the boxes and whatnot behind me, yes, my partner is moving on in, and she's currently moved in, so life-wise, going great. But, fantasy-wise, there's a lot to discuss.
Yeah, there is plenty to discuss. And if you are here nice and early, make sure you hit a like on the stream and share it around in your circles as well to help us get to 200 subscribers. We are knocking on the door there. So if we can get there ASAP, that would be fantastic. Ballers and ballers, I've been thinking I was going to save someone who's not on the podcast tonight some embarrassment, but stuff it because I'm so annoyed at my own team. I need to laugh at someone else. So, after back-to-back weeks of being the number one scorer, Jackie, how are you? Hopefully you're doing well. I can't let Dom get away with this one. He is currently on holiday. He's away, which is why he's not here tonight. Hopefully he will join us for this part. He scored 32 points this week, and I thought I had a bad week this week. So I reckon he's going to have two ballers, Semenyo and Thiago, and the rest of his team is fallers. I didn't mind, granted what his team is. I actually didn't hate the VC on Rodgers against Wolves. I don't know if I haven't spoken to him about this. I don't know if that was an intentional decision or not. Him benching Timber for Hincapié is a huge swing. Again, I don't know how much thought went into that. I know Dom's had a pretty busy couple of weeks, so I'll spare him some thought there. He also played Dubravka over David Raya, so interesting choices, and he didn't start Enzo either. Enzo came on for Phil Foden, so don't quite know what was going on with Dom there, but maybe a good week for him to be interstate and avoid some questioning there. So we'll move on. Next in line was me, so at least I wasn't last this week. 53 points, bang on the average. Not ideal. Now, I didn't start Dubravka, so we will discuss that in a second. But he did make his way into my team this week, which is really frustrating. Granted, I don't think my other goalkeeper option would have scored too well regardless because that game ended 4-3.
Yep.
So, I mean, my rank doubled this week. I went from 56K to 117. Not really the areas I'd like to be traveling in. Post a wildcard as well only 2 weeks ago, and I've slid back twice. Do I think the wild card was a bad idea? No. In another world, Florian Wirtz doesn't hurt his back in the warm-up in my first round of a wild card, and maybe I'll get something that salvages some midfield scores that I've been struggling with. I mean, Mbeumo and Palmer have had back-to-back blanks since I brought them in. I knew the Palmer decision was off the back of some form, but I knew the Arsenal game wasn't going to be ideal, but I still think Palmer in this stretch of games will be fine. The minutes are looking okay. I know it was 74 minutes against Burnley, but unfortunately, again, I said it last week, these red cards in these Chelsea games are really just killing their ability to be on the front foot. And I actually thought, we'll get into it later, I thought Chelsea post the red card was still quite good, which is really annoying. So, if they can keep 11 men on the park, he might have a chance to actually create something because he might have a bit of space to operate in. So a little bit frustrating from the Cole Palmer perspective. Hill back-to-back weeks, no DC is a bit frustrating after the run of games he went on. Absolutely ticking along. Same with a Christoph Ayers, 2 weeks in a row, not getting returns from him. Not so much about the clean sheets here. I'm more disappointed in the DC, especially in a game that finishes 4-3. Like, I don't understand how his DC was so low. But again, obviously, Burnley, he must have just been clinical with their chances. So, ballers for me, Bruno Fernandes, Gabriel, Thiago, pretty standard. Only 3 guys that returned. Fallers, Rodgers and Ayer, I'll go. I think it'd be harsh to give it to any of the boys that subbed on for me because I wasn't intending on not having Haaland and Wirtz and Kelleher play. So I've had 3 automatic substitutions, and I couldn't control that. That's an injury and a warm-up off the wild card. I think a bit of fatigue more than anything, and a missus having a baby. Like, you talk about, I had some really good luck at the start of the season, and I avoided a lot of this stuff, and maybe my luck's catching up with me a little bit and things are evening out. So got some plans for this week, but 53 points, Bruno Fernandes, without that bloody captain score, I would have been in a world of hurt. That is my side. Let's get through yours, Damo.
Yeah, look, let's discuss what was still a very bad game week for me.
Yeah. Let's look at it like this.
Yeah. If that's what it was, I would be happy. I'm not. I'm fuming. Look, let me discuss why I'm fuming, even though I did get a green arrow, and why I think this is the week that will end my season and end my consistency of making top 100K over the last few years. So let's discuss that. Going into the week, I was planning to make 5 transfers as last pod. I made those 5 transfers. However, the one transfer I was going to make was Wirtz. Didn't because of the injury news and concern, and couldn't make my mind up. Tossed up between Gakpo, Semenyo, and then Ryan Gravenberch, which I'm actually going to sing him out as a baller because really consistent, second best Liverpool asset in terms of points this season. Hits DC in most games. Got 5 points here with an assist. Didn't get DC, got 10, unfortunately, this game, or else it could have been a monster score for him with 7 points. But the main reason I made 5 transfers, Paul, is because that good old blue ring of death on my bench called a bench boost. Now, let's discuss why I bench boost. I brought in Hill, who was playing Sunderland at home. I had Krupi, who was playing Sunderland at home. And I knew that if I could get a playing defender who had a home fixture and was really good with DC, I would get a decent bench boost. Will it be great? No. But the reason why I played it is Sunderland have looked pretty poor of late. Sunderland away have been looking a lot worse. And then to make my mind up, because I was still tossing and turning, the stat came out that over the last 6 game weeks, Sunderland's XG is 19th on the table.
Yeah.
If there is a week where you bring in who's been getting DC each week, right, for a bench boost, and probably get a clean sheet, it's against a team that's averaging 19. Instead, Hill falls well short of DC, and they concede early. Game week over. Then Haaland gets injured, so now I cop a 0 on the bench. Did I expect Burnley to ship 4 to Brentford? No. And I think if he did, Thiago would have went ballistic. Didn't happen either. Which all of them matters. I got 2 zeros on my bench. Hill gets 2 in a game week that I was like at minimum 4. Probably gets anywhere between 6 to 10. And 4 doesn't get the I can't pronounce his name properly. Newcastle defender. Chow. Doesn't get his normal DC either. So from a plan that I was being aggressive, 5 transfers used to get a bench boost that I think at worst case would have got me 8 points, right? Yeah. And at best case could have got me 20 to 24 with 3 really good fixtures and my goalkeeper fixture being okay because Brentford haven't been Brentford of late. I was like, sure, I'm going to run it. So even though, yes, my overall rank's 1.8K and yes, I got a green arrow, this is a bad game week, probably the worst game week of the season for me. So the fallers are my bench, me for pulling the trigger on it, Morgan Rogers and Mbeumo.
Yeah.
My ballers, however, what got me a green arrow was Virgil was one of my transfers in, fantastic. Gravenberch, as mentioned, one of my transfers in, fantastic. And obviously, I vice captain Bruno Fernandes. I was very tempted to put it on Thiago. I'm glad I went Bruno, and that got me the green arrow. I am grateful that I did get a green arrow, but if you're thinking who's had the worst week out of me, you or Dom, I actually think I've had the worst week out of the 3.
I mean, it's hard. Like, there's some variance there that I think we've both copped this week. That's unlucky. It happens. My bench boost this year both haven't really wielded more than 5 points either. So, I don't know. It's one of those ones where it's a bit of luck. I've had weeks where I've had 15 points on the bench and in really weird fixtures, and maybe that's just where we need to look at it. Speaking of Morgan Rogers, kick us off. Wolves, Villa. What's going on with Villa, Damo? The coach's hat on.
The coach's hat on is that they look leggy and they look tired and they look like a team that has a lot of weight of expectation on them because a few weeks ago, we were all talking about, are they sneakily in this title race if they go on a run, especially by the way Arsenal's been? Maybe, now we're looking at them and going, this is a team that might fall out.
They're going to make Europe.
Yeah, this is a team that might fall out of the top 5, won't make Champions League. They just look slow. They look fatiguing. It reminds me a little bit of Palace, middle part of the season.
Yeah.
And it's hard for teams to get out of that rut. Also feel like from a coach's perspective, they look a little bit disjointed, un-Henry-like, just lacking of discipline to keep their shape, and they seem to be getting pulled all over the park. So, yeah, a view on Villa would be, I don't know if I would go out my way to target him, but for someone that has Sanchez on their bench playing, and my plan was to get rid of Sanchez this week, I'm actually keeping the the Chelsea goalkeeper for Aston Villa because I actually think Villa are looking a little bit worrisome. I really worry that for Villa fans because I really think they are in a big scrap right now. If they lose another couple games, they're going to be in trouble not making it in the Champions League. And considering the season they've had, they really should. To be honest, I really think they should be fighting for the title right now of how bad Arsenal's doing. But anyway.
Yeah, we've got an interesting comment here from Colm, which is going to feed into the next bit of the conversation. Is Rodgers is a hold because the other problems in my team. And I'm in the same boat this week. And when I look at this graph and this graphic, I see Morgan Rodgers. We were saying, get him in the number 10 role. Get him in front of goal. And where he does his magic, he is in front of goal. This is the frustrating thing. You look at the most XG chain, it's Morgan Rodgers. Like, the data's not been fantastic, but Morgan Rodgers is never a data manager a data player anyway. He returns from low XG chances. And I don't know. There's a part of me that the fixtures are that good after the next 2 weeks anyway. I might just have to live and die on the hill. 90-minute man. I think they're going to be out of Europe. Well, were they in the Europa League, aren't they?
Yeah.
Far out. I just wish that they just throw it. Like, honestly, they need to focus enough on qualifying for the Champions League for that money. I'd rather them just throw the Europa League and then throw everything at the Premier League. Like, look at the names. Look at the names on this list.
I know.
Cash, Sancho, Rodgers, Watkins, Buendia, Digne, Louise, Onana. Like, that team is so good. And they just can't string it. I don't get it. I know you're about to say they've got, Chelsea and Arsenal next two, is it?
Yeah, so they go Chelsea, then their round of 16 ties is very difficult for Europa League.
United.
They go Chelsea, then Lille, United, then Lille. And Lille away
West
first.
Ham, Forest, Sunderland.
Yeah. So, like, I feel like with Rodgers specifically, and I agree with Cole, and I agree that the fixtures long-term is great. If you're planning to sell him, it's now, or you hold him for game week 38. One of the two.
I'm going to hold.
Now, I think for you personally, hold. I've done something a bit different, which I'm sure we'll discuss later, and I've already done those transfers. First time I've done what I've done in a year and a bit in fantasy, but
Well, it's not really early because we've got games tomorrow.
Yeah, so I think no, not early. Hit. I haven't taken a hit.
Sorry, you did tell me that already. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And Rodgers is the guy that I hit it out. Why? I think because of this fixture run and this congestion, I just don't see it being particularly easy for Villa over the next few. And then it depends on fitness and fatigue after this run of fixtures. And if they get through Lille, which, look, I agree with you, they should throw it from a perspective of the football club to make Champions League. Knowing Unai Emery, he won't throw that because he's looking at the Europa League going, that's my ticket to the Champions League because I can win this. And you might get the opposite effect where they might start throwing the league a little bit to win the Europa League, which I think that board would be happy with. And then if they try to do that, failed and finish in the Europa League anyway, sixth, they probably are okay with that as well.
Yeah.
But interesting. That's my view on Villa.
Again, from Coleman's, Louise affected Rodgers' output. I'd say no. Like, if I bring the image back up quickly, like, they're playing in very different areas. I think it's just taking time again to readjust. Like, Sancho wasn't in this side as well. And I think Rodgers being in the 10 actually opens up a lot of space for Jadon Sancho. The problem with Villa is they don't have it. Like, if Rodgers is playing as the 10, as he is here. They don't have a natural sort of left winger. So it's a bit interesting on this balance. Like Buendia is almost coming inside to be a secondary 10. And it's almost the way Chelsea played when Enzo Fernandez would play that left channel. And then when it's Cucurella playing at left back, it's Digne getting up high and acting as the winger. And you get the extra number in midfield. So I think Emery's probably trying some things, which is interesting. So I just think if Rodgers isn't a priority and you've got options, or you just want to, like, he can score in any game. This season, he's been a bit more, he has feasted on the lower sides, and I was kind of making that point maybe a couple months ago.
Yeah, when I picked
Man United's going to be a game where there's going to be goals in that game. Man United, Aston Villa, I think. So, like, he could easily get on the end of something there. And Chelsea, I mean, you don't know what Chelsea's turning up. This could be 3-3 or it could be 0-0. Like, it could be anything in this game. So, I don't think it's as bad as it could be, because I think there's going to be goals in both of these games. Then it opens up. So anyway, enough on the Villa. Wolves, again, like, it's interesting that they're fighting, which is nice because, you know, they're down, but good on Wolves at home. That's a big game too. That's a derby. So maybe don't look into it as much on that basis of maybe Wolves are just thought we've rolled over a bit this year. Let's just put a bit of a flag in the ground and show some fight at home against the Midlands derby. So let's move on. Bournemouth, Sunderland. I got another graphic to show. Let's get it up. I want to have a look here. Bournemouth I think Sunderland, I said it last week, don't be surprised if they do a bit of that mid-season drop-off now because they're safe and they've spent probably a lot of emotional energy on staying up. So I wouldn't expect them to be hanging around the way they were. But Alex Scott is someone I've had my eye on as an enabler pick. I love him a lot. DC, man, if I look at his DC this week, once again, yellow card DC 13 just got there, but he just gets the job done. It was only 3 points because of the yellow card. Senesi got 11 DC, Traffair got 10, Hill got 7, Jimenez got 7. But when I look at the Sunderland side of things, Enzo Lafie 10, Xhaka 11, Alderete 21, Geertruida 13, Ballard 15. That tells you the style of this game was Bournemouth were on top. So I think we can give Hill a bit of a pass. Like, yes, it's annoying that Hill doesn't get DC, but I think we need to shift our mindset of what a good DC fixture is. And it's probably more an away. Like, if this was the reverse game and Sunderland were at home on the front foot, then this becomes a good Hill DC game. I think home fixtures, we're banking more on clean sheets, and away fixtures will bank more on DC because of the nature of the way the games are played. So I think Bournemouth really are a side to target. Their fixtures over the next few still are Brentford, Burnley, United, and then it's Arsenal, Newcastle, but then it's Leeds, Palace, Fulham, who, again, Fulham by 36 are going to be playing for nothing. Then it's Man City, Nottingham Forest. So, yes, you've missed a good run of Wolves, Villa, Everton, West Ham, Sunderland, but I still think Bournemouth assets for the rest of the season are good buys, particularly the defenders. Thoughts?
Yeah, definitely agree. I'm even looking for a third asset. I did look at Alex Scott as my transfer in part of the two that I've made and we'll discuss later. Main reason I didn't go there is I do think there's another enabler that has a better DC track record and just as good as fixtures after this specific game week. And the guy I picked up, I don't need to play this game week with how my team lines up anyhow. And we'll discuss who that is later. I think from a Bournemouth point of view, I think there's a lot to like in the style of football they play. I think picking up any of Senesi, Hill, Scott, Ryan, Evan Nielsen, Krupi is perfectly viable for the rest of the season. Someone that owned Krupi this week, he looked really good, just didn't know how to put a ball in the back of the net and didn't know how to finish a chance, or else, my bench boost looks a little, well, it wouldn't because Haaland didn't play. But I think from a Sunderland point of view, I would echo the same thing that they look leggy. And the stats before this game say everything, that they're not really the greatest attacking team at the moment. They're still creating chances. And I agree to the extent what's a good XG game, what isn't. You need teams that can go down the other end. So even if you're at home, will still go down the other end. And Sunderland are still capable going down the other end, just not creating a quality.
Well, that's why Senesi and Traffair scrape over the line.
Yeah,
So
correct.
it's just one of those games where it is what it is, and you pray for the clean sheet.
I still think if you have a Sunderland asset, like if you still have Roofs or Alderete, or you've held Mukiele on your bench, who I think's back this game week, probably next game week, right? It's probably worth just keeping them playing in those home fixtures that are a bit easier that are coming up. But I wouldn't be going out my way to go get a Sunderland. Like
Yeah.
if you need an enabler, I'm not going.
Yeah, I wouldn't be doing
down
it now.
that route. Yeah, I think we've thanked them for the great season they've given us. Thank you for the points. If you're someone that went with Roofs early doors, you're loving life. Your rank's probably really good. But yeah, now it's time to go towards. It's probably time to go towards a couple other teams, and Bournemouth's probably the team I would go to.
Yeah, and we'll look at the fixtures a bit later. Burnley, Brentford, Damsgaard 2 goals and an assist. Sharda, Thiago, Dango. I mean, Damsgaard 63 points on the bonus. He's just mental. And Dango gets an assist and only 6 DEFCON. Again, Hannibal Mejri, double assist. Anthony Golan assist. Very, very interesting game. Similar again, I've got the heat, or the pass map, I should say, for Brentford. Because I want you to tell me what stands out on this, because it is a bit of a pretty bog standard sort of 4-2-3-1. But what stands out to you, Damo, on that one?
There's a couple of things. There's two things. Firstly, when we've looked at a lot of these maps, how often has the 10 been ahead of the 9? Right? Mm-hmm. Lots of the teams do that. Brentford operate with a traditional 9 where Thiago will lead the line as the furthest forward player. Like, we're about to look at United. How often is it Bruno? You look at Chelsea. How often is it whoever's playing in the 10? You look at City.
Just saw Haaland. It with...
Yeah.
Well, we just saw it with Rodgers.
Yeah, correct. Aston Villa. So it's a different 4-2-3-1 that Brentford play. The second thing, and the reason why I really like this, is look at how close Damsgaard gets to Igor Thiago, right? Almost like they're playing 2 up top. And that means it gives those defenders, right, that are trying to obviously create this, eat the space and control the lines, right? And that DM that's probably, trying to man-mark Damsgaard, a really difficult spot, because if Thiago splits and Damsgaard gets close to him, how do you stop that space from one of them getting it? And I think that really opens up Dango Utara on that right-hand side to have the whole wing by himself.
Just run.
Yeah.
And look at his arrows. Where are they going?
Straight up, because everything happens down the left or congested in the middle with the 10 and the 9, right? The beautiful thing is that Thiago will likely, as you can see, a lot of the ball comes from Coyote straight into Thiago, right? Thiago will knock it into Damsgaard, goes to Dango Ataro. The first person that pivots back in the box is Thiago because he's the highest forward, right? So, yeah, I think when you look at this pass map, 2 big things to take out is a traditional 9 and a 10 that gets really high with the 9 to create a lot of space for the right winger, where the left-hand side is the more creative side.
Yeah, I look at that and just go, I want 2 pieces of this Brentford attack, because they just attack well. And it's not so much the fullbacks. They're a side that don't, Coyote gets his assist from his throw-ins. Rico Henry's had to change his game post that big leg injury. It is the wingers and it is the striker in this Brentford team. I just think a freak game, personally, allowing Burnley to score 3. So wouldn't look too much into it from their defense. We've said Brentford have these random games from time to time as well. So don't stress too much. I don't really want to go into it heaps other than that. I think Thiago and Dango are very good options. Now, Damo, Liverpool, West Ham, 5-2. Are we back?
No, we're not back, but we're close.
Talk me through it.
I still think that, you got to take into consideration, we did play West Ham, who are scrapping for their life, right? So 2 ways to read into that. West Ham are going to try and put in as good of a performance as they can, but they're a relegation threatened side. We're a team that should be in the top 4. We should be beating them at home, right? That's the first thing I would say. Second thing is we look much better when Florian Wirtz is there. So are we back? No, we are back when that performance comes out and Wirtz is in the 10, right? Or is playing off the left, coming inside with Sabozla, whichever way it is when they work it out between what they do. From a Liverpool perspective, though, great game if you're someone that's looking to go against Haaland captain this week, because it highlighted the importance on how big Hugo Ekitike is in link up and creativity, and overall output of goal scoring. And almost to the point where I think he's nearly essential for the next couple of game weeks.
Yeah, it's a hard one because if we get some news on Haaland and you can make the switch and then you gain the game week 31, you could justify it very easily.
You could that way, for sure. If you're looking at the map on the screen, we would all clamour on how high and wide Salah is. Problem is that he's not the winger that does his best work out there. Look at Atara Dango, literally before. His best work comes when he's running at his man down the line, going wide, right? Salah's best work is when he's able to create the space and come inside and get on his left foot, right? Very hard to do it from when he's so far out wide. All Liverpool fans have been clamouring, we need to get Salah inside more. We need to get Salah inside more.
You want him in that pocket in between the 6-yard box and the 18-yard box.
As much as it looks interesting, you also got to take in how teams play. That is not a good spot for Salah to be into. It's a creative spot, but it ain't the Salah spot of goals and assists and etc. He gets that when he goes more down the more central.
You got to like this point here about most progressive passes received, though. So it means he's getting the ball in transition phases, which typically for Salah is a positive. Is he the same Salah of old, though, that's going to pick it up and beat 3? No. So it probably means his assist potential is quite high, because if he's receiving the progressive pass regularly, it probably means he's drawing some defenders in, which for a Nekatike or a Szoboszlai or a Gakpo, it probably means their goal threat goes up, because if Salah's drawing 1 or 2 defenders, then at least it means he can at least slip a ball in, and we know he's got that quality to find people.
Yeah, correct. The second thing you'd pick up at the shade is look at, you know how we just saw a traditional 9 and a 9 that drops in? Hugo's not playing really as a traditional 9. He's playing more as a left-winged inside forward role. And that can create space for who in the 10 to link up with him to get through. That's why we were all clamouring for Wirtz, because that was usually Wirtz with Szoboszlai coming in off the right when Salah wasn't around. I still think that we are much better when Wirtz is out there. Be interesting to see when Wirtz is back and what they're going to do with Gakpo and Salah, because you need to get Szoboszlai in that front 4 as well. But yeah, in terms of a game, this is a Liverpool side that did look good. This is a Liverpool side that I think has a lot of upside right now if you pick the right assets.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I just want to also add the West Ham map, because probably explains a little bit about, actually, before we do that, thoughts on Mac 10. I would not be going there whatsoever. I'd actually rather Gravenberch over Mac if I was looking.
I love the guy. I love Mac 10. I think he's an outrageous footballer. This question comes on the back that he got 13 points the week before because he scored in the last minute of the game.
Yeah, against Forest in a 1-0 win.
And then got the free bonus on that and got DC that game. He's not a traditional DC merchant. He will get DC in some games, though, when we need to win the ball back a lot high up the field. He's more the aggressive 6, where he as soon as we get the ball, he's the one that's going on, right? Which means the other 6, which is Gravenberch, is the one getting all the DC, right? It also means when teams come out and, win the ball and then come against us, Gravenberch is the one that wins it and then plays that next pass when they're unsettled, which is why he gets so many assists as well. McAllister's goal threat comes literally from being the last guy that comes into the box to, sort of enter against Forest. Saw him a couple of times where the ball will fall to him in and around the 18-yard box because he's that last guy arriving. I just think if you're looking for a fantasy asset, Gravenberch is cheaper, gets DC more regularly, and has good assist threat because he's the one that wins the ball back and then plays that pass against an unsettled side that's coming the other way.
I agree. Quickly on West Ham, I mean, I know they concede 5, but, very unlucky game for them. I still like the way that they're playing. It's interesting that Mateus Fernandes has this thick line going back to Manson. That buzzes me out a little bit. But, yeah, the Bowen, Somerville, Diouf sort of trio intrigue me. So one to just keep an eye on. Not that I'm going to recommend it, but if you're in a position like me and you needed a cheap 4 million defender, I think there's worse than Diouf. So I'm in that boat. So as we load up the next game, if you are here and you haven't liked the stream, please get a like on the stream. It does help us push it out. So Newcastle Everton, I'm just done with Newcastle, Damo. I don't want to spend too long on this game. Just can't trust them at this point anymore. So
No.
I'm just avoid. Everton, I've been saying it for months. They are great away from home. If you own an Everton asset, target their away fixtures. They can't win at home, but they'll get the job done on the road. So James Garner goes and gets an assist in DC and a 6-pointer. He's someone I really do like as another enabler. Very regularly up around the 15 to 20 DC range as well. So I'd be very keen on that. I just don't love their attack. No one really stands out. I know Dewsbury Hall gets an assist in DC. He's probably the one if I was to pick an Everton attacker, but I just don't see it personally. So probably two teams I'm avoiding moving forward, but just interesting to touch on. What did you think of Man City?
Yeah, look, I thought they were good and I thought they exerted control, but I think away from home to Leeds, they would have expected more. I think City's still a good side without Haaland, but I think they missed that focal point at times in this match. So I think on a different day of Leeds score, City would have found a way to score 3. Yeah, I think that would have happened too. Just a side that knows how to win a game of football and knows how to see it out when needs be. I still think owning a defender from City is definitely very good. However, this blank in 31 really hurts that. I think if you're someone that, if you're someone that's played their wild card, like myself, right, getting to a point where you could roll a couple of transfers to attack game week 32 beyond when they all come back from the blank, I think is important, especially when we know when the doubles are, if it's 32, 33, 34, whatever.
Their first couple game weeks suck as well. It's Chelsea, Arsenal post the blank. But then from 34, you're Burnley, Everton, Brentford, Bournemouth, Villa, and you've got Palace in there as well and potential other doubles too.
Yeah, I agree. And I think picking them up at the right time is fine. Yeah, I'd probably hold Haaland on your bench if you can. If you want to sell him, by all means, that's perfectly fine too. But you're looking at a double, right? And the double is probably in 34, which is Burnley, Palace. I'm telling you right now, if you're someone that's played their wild card, or you played your wild card, put yourself in a position to roll so you can get 3 or 4 transfers. So then you can go bang. I want Haaland, I want Guehi, I want Semenyo, for instance, right? Ait-Nouri, we mentioned him last podcast and how high he's getting, and this is old school Pep when he's going for a title, gets the wing backs going. Look at the assist and 11 points, right? If we had all the transfers in the world, I'm sure we all would have had him. But I think going without City players right now or selling them is probably okay with game week 31 coming up. Yes, it's Forest West Ham makes it difficult. But yeah, I think after they blank, picking the right moment to get back on free City is going to be huge. And I think depending where the double falls, hopefully it falls in 34, do it in 34.
Yeah, and if it falls in 34, I think we're triple captaining, sorry.
Yeah, if it comes in 34, we're likely all triple captaining and then probably free hitting in like either the other blank week, or B, if it's not that bad of a blank, probably free hitting in 36, where there's potentially the likelihood of maybe a small double, which we see occasionally with FA Cup. But yeah, that's kind of like, what do you think of City? It depends on your chip strategy. If you're someone that has a wild card up your sleeve, would be having City. I would even go buy Semenyo for 2 weeks, wild card, a dead end in the 31, and then wild card him out in 32. And wild card him back in, in 32 or 33. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm just intrigued to see what news comes out over the next couple of hours about Haaland. Hopefully we get it before we have to go to bed. So we'll see if he's in or not, but might be one that you just fire up. He's either going to start or he's not going to play at all. One of those.
Yeah,
ones,
correct. So. I think for anyone that can't make the deadline, I would put him in your starting 11 and then just have a good, sort your bench out.
And a good VC.
Yeah, I'm not even got the C on him at all either, if he starts, because I think he will play and only play 60, for instance.
Yeah,
so I wouldn't put him at all.
I have to think about that. It's not a bad idea, to be fair. Bruno might get the call up potentially this week then. We'll see. All right, let's move on. Brighton Forest. I mean, Brighton starting to actually turn a corner, so good on Brighton. Forest, big trouble, and I think City are going to absolutely slap them up this week as well. I don't think we need to talk about this one too much.
Nope.
Fulham Spurs, very interesting. I I mean, Wilson, goal and assist, just keeps ticking along. I know there's an injury concern. They play West Ham this week. You'd absolutely love to fire up. Harry Wilson was looking at him this week as well, but sort of the next few weeks, it's okay, and then it just drops right off. So I don't think it's a long-term play. But I do, yeah, he's been one that's hurt this season. Spurs, we've been saying it all year, just avoid. Anything to add on this one before we move on?
I think if you're looking at Fulham, you've kind of missed the boat because I think it's only another 2 good fixtures, then it turns real bad. I think if you're looking at Spurs, I wouldn't go near them, and I actually think there's more of a world where they go down than being safe. We mentioned that last pod. I don't think that either of 2 teams are going to be fantasy relevant for long.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. United Palace, talk me through this one.
Look, yeah, interesting game. Obviously, Palace go down to 10 men in this game, of course. I think if you're looking from a Palace perspective, you're looking for a good showing, and you kind of got an air showing. Because don't get me wrong, if Palace started showing what they showed at the start of the season, we would all have Munoz, right? And we would all probably look for Sarr, for instance, as an enabler, etc. Don't see that happening. So I would stay away from Palace. From a United point of view, we've said it a lot that they look really good in this 4-2-3-1 under Carrick. Bruno, how many times we've mentioned him with the heat map in all the games, how central he is, how progressive he gets, how many passes he receives, how creative he is when we see all the heat maps, proves it again. And should be your permanent VC if you're captaining Haaland, and is probably your most likely captain when you don't go with Haaland. I do think there is a case that there is a better captain in this game week specifically, but anyhow. And you probably still want a second asset from United. I still think it's in Mbeumo because there's the heat map. He's always the highest. But I really am coming around to potentially going with a defender like a Diogo Dalot, who's getting really high, who's looking very creative. You can write a couple of blanks to the fact if he gets an assist and a clean sheet in DC, he could get 15, 14 points in a game. So I still think 2 United assets are important moving forward. The best 2 for me is still Bruno and Mbeumo. However, you're looking for a defender. Look, I know they play Newcastle away this week. I still think Diogo Dalot might be a very good shout.
Yeah, I mean, I owned him earlier in the season. It was a little bit frustrating, but it was right in that window of Amarin leaving and interims and you name it. So probably not the time. But I think United have definitely turned a corner now. We've got enough data to be able to comfortably look at them and know that what they're going to play and who's going to start. So Mazraoui's in and around the team as well, but I think Shaw got injured. So I think Mazraoui just slots in on Dalot might actually slot in on the left, to be fair. So we'll see what happens.
I think that's what will happen. And Amad Diallo will probably go to the right-hand side.
Oh, potentially. Yeah, fair shout. So Arsenal-Chelsea, set piece galore. I don't know how much to take out of this game, to be fair. Like, red card again. Arsenal just get the job done, really, don't they?
Yeah, well, look, they needed to stop the slide. They know that they are in a dogfight now with City, and no one wants to be in a dogfight with City for the title. So Arteta isn't silly. He knows, look at the game against us. They really should have come and attacked us, right, at the Emirates, and they sat, and we're taking this 0-0.
Yeah.
Arteta's very pragmatic when it comes to that, and knew exactly what he had to do to get a result here. And what is a big London derby, by the way, right? Huge. What I will say with this is, again, the Arsenal defense is superior than any of their attackers. And I think this is the same thing we've always mentioned. Yes, Declan Rice gets an assist in this game, but it is yellow flagged. I know nothing about this injury, to be honest. So if you got any news on what it is and what you would do with Declan Rice, by all means, share in a second, Paul. But from a fantasy point of view, I still think the Arsenal defense is the place to go.
Yeah.
Quickly on Chelsea, I would go away from Chelsea for a 10-foot pole. I don't trust any of their assets. They single-handedly, this team has burnt my season. I'm still dealing with Sanchez in goal, which I think is an awful pick. The only thing I will say on that is it is Aston Villa, who are also in very poor form, and this could be just a 0-0 cagey game where 2 teams that are not in form can't find their straps. But yeah,
I'm still all right with Palmer.
Is the place to go.
I'm still all right with Palmer. Penalty taker, fitness was better, talisman. I can live with Palmer. I've got Palmer. I wouldn't be owning. I mean, people are talking about João Pedro. I think the best structure right now is Thiago, Haaland, Krupi. Personally, you can't really talk me out of that at this point. So I think if you want a piece of the Chelsea attack, I think it's Cole Palmer. Is Rice a sell even if he's fit?
Close.
My issue with the midfielders is I actually don't really know where I want to go. Like, I've had to make some midfield decisions this week, and I don't love. I've been talking about the midfield all year. I just don't really love a lot of the options. I just don't. Rice is that steady Eddie pick, and with 8-9 game weeks to go, do you want a steady Eddie or do you want to swing for the roof? I think that's kind of the decision you have to make. I, on my wild card, decided to try and hit a 6, and I've been bowled 3 times. So
great analogy. That
so far it hasn't worked, but the benefit of attacking it is 1 game week where it all pops and I gain all that rank back. So you look at it 2 ways. So I think at this point of the season, I'm more willing to take some risks than to try and play steady Eddie all the way through to the end of the season. So maybe it'll bite me in the ass and maybe I'll finish at 150K. Who knows? But, if I absolutely blow it from a 40K position this year, then at least it's on the back of my own decisions. I think I'm on team sell Rice at this point. I'm on 1 Arsenal asset, and instead of looking at projections, I think we're going to spend the next 15 minutes probably talking about our plans and our teams over the next couple of weeks anyway.
Yep.
It depends on how many transfers you've got as well. If you're rolling with 2 transfers, I would just hold him and just use your depth. If you got 4 transfers, then I could see a world where you want to sell him. But again, I wouldn't even know who to recommend to bring in. It's just an awkward position right now to make that transfer. I know he blanks in 31 as well, so you got to consider that. So it's an interesting position, that price point, because there's no one really. I mean, Semenyo is the one screaming it, and I sold him, and he's burnt me twice now in the last 2 weeks. But I still wouldn't buy him until post this blank. So I don't know where to go as well. That's part of my problem.
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything you've just said. I am very much in the camp of team dependent answer, right? Now, reason why I say that is it depends on your structure. I think there's a lot of great enablers at the moment in FPL, right? You've got Garner at Everton. You've got Anderson, who's the steady Eddie at Forest, right? Gravenberch isn't bad at Liverpool for 5.5 million. You got a lot of these guys, right? I think if your structure is I'm going to free strikers to get like Hugo Katike with Haaland and Thiago, right? Then Rice is a clear sell to fund that. And you pick up the fixture in 31. That, I think, is your best play. If you're like, no, I want to have my 2 striker template, which I believe is the better template as well, Thiago and Haaland. Now, look, no spoilers to do with my team, but I may have moved away from that. You're probably not selling Rice because you don't need to refund that anywhere. Unless you've got to sell Rice and hold 2 to 2.5, 3 million to your team to attack something in game week 34, I would rather keep Rice for Brighton Everton. I don't know how bad this injury is. I haven't seen any news about it. I think he plays this game week because they're in a title fight. And I think they're just going to play him every week. And with that being said, I think you want to then have Declan because he has the potential to go and get a 20-pointer. So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair. So, all right. On that note, we've got about 15 minutes left. Can you guys get your questions in the chat as well? Because we will get to them probably in 10 minutes or so. Also, if you are new and you could throw a like on the stream, we are at 9 at the moment. If we can get this up to a nice even 15 likes for tonight, that would be fantastic. Do you have your hub or Premier League site loaded?
I can definitely share what I've done on FPL. Let me share my screen.
Yeah, you can go first and then I'll finish this off and then get into questions.
Because I've made my 2 moves already, if you want to bring that on screen.
It's on
How are we, gang? That is me. I've made 2 moves. For those that don't know, or I can't remember. I used 5 free transfers last week. So for the first time, and you could attest to this, Paul, we made a pact to not take a hit on fantasy all of last season. I did not take a hit all last season. was going to try and not take a hit this season, but I feel like my team needs the hit, and I'm in a position where... Oh, thanks, Andrew. Awesome. We're going to get to your question as well in a second. I did see that in chat regarding the defenders. This is the first I've taken a hit, obviously, in nearly 2 seasons. And I'm going to explain my 2 moves and why I took a hit. So I mentioned it earlier, Morgan Rogers. This is, you either sell this game week Chelsea United with the 2 Lille fixtures right now, or you hold him till game week 38 because then the fixtures turn good again. And I've decided to sell him as part of a hit. Now, that could come back to bite me because I think Morgan Rogers, fantastic player. I've owned him for quite a lot of weeks, has the potential to go bang in any game week. The reason I have is because I think an enabler that we know is very well and good is Elliot Anderson. He usually hits his DC monster, you guys know. And I don't have to play him with my second transfer being who it is in this game week where they're going to get slapped up by City. Looking forward, they then play Fulham at home.
He probably still gets 3 or 4 points this week too, to be fair.
Probably, right? Fulham at home, Spurs. Villa is a good fixture for DC. Burnley, Sunderland away, good fixture as well for DC. Chelsea, good fixture for DC. Newcastle, United, Bournemouth. For Elliot Anderson specifically, that is an outrageous run home where he will probably get DC in the next 8 game weeks, right? So to sell Rogers, who does have the potential to be hit and miss, right? And he could go bang. I picked up someone that I'm very confident saying will probably have a baseline of 3 to 4 points moving forward for the next 8 to 9 game weeks. And I don't have to play him in his hardest fixture. What that allowed me to do was to free up the money to go Kroupy, who I love Kroupy, for Hugo Ekitike. We spoke about it when we had the Liverpool graph up. I almost think he's essential at the moment with how good he looks and our fixtures where we go Wolves away, Spurs are woeful and going down, Brighton, just, Brighton.
They're hitting miss.
Fulham at home, good fixture with how Fulham are playing. Everton away will be a crazy game. Palace, then United, which is a big derby. Chelsea have looked meh. Villa have looked meh. And then Brentford. I think the week to get on him was last week. I couldn't do it, right? Which I did. I almost think he's essential in this run in. And while I do agree the best template, if you get your midfielders right, is a 2-striker with Thiago and Haaland, I think Hugo is borderline the best template striker to own in a free. And so much so as I think he is the best captains for this week. He's the best captain for this game week over Bruno. Now, yes, it's Newcastle. Newcastle in the big games need to play better. I don't see Wolves backing up what they just did again against us. And the second thing is we then play them in the FA Cup on the Sunday. 100% Wolves are going to look at the FA Cup and go, that's the competition we target because we're already down. So I really think having Liverpool's best asset for this fixture run and gaining the captaincy and the fact that my rank's 200k, I think captaining Hugo Ekitike and bringing him in for a hit and getting Anderson, who I know I can play the next 8 game weeks, no matter what, is fantastic. It also means that I can roll some transfers to deal with 31, even though this team will deal with 31 with 11 playing players. And it means at some point I can deal with my Newcastle asset. The only thing I would say about this whole game week is I don't know if I should start Declan Rice over Hill or Senesi. Probably Hill, and buy that he plays 70, 80 minutes against a Brighton side that I don't really rate. And what that does for me on the short term, if we go over to Fantasy Football Hub, bear in mind, Hub always picks it on projected minutes and they project Rice to play and get 4.4 points. They don't really love Gravenberch, even though he's fantastic for baseline, and Wolves, I think, is a good fixture for us anyhow. They would predict me to play a back 5, which I don't understand how he's getting such a high protection. But anyhow, 30 allows me to get a team rating of 97, right, with some really good fixtures. And in 31, without me making any transfers, which will get me back to free transfers, I would be able to play 11 playing players with some really good fixtures in that game week too. So as much as I've taken a hit for the first time in a year in 30 game weeks nearly, 28 game weeks, a year and 28 game weeks of fantasy, I think this is the perfect time because I get a captaincy option that will be differential. I still think is the best captaincy for this game week. I get them for the fixture run home and puts me in a position where I have 11 playing players, can probably roll the week after this as well to get to 4 free transfers and then attack that City double when it does come around. Thoughts?
Yeah, I like it. Ekitike is a frustrating own. Like, I had him for a while and he can just absolutely pop off in a random game week when he scored that double against Newcastle, I think it was, and I went absolutely bunter, but it was like 4 games in a row where it was just 2.2.2.2.13. Like, he's just that kind of striker. He's not quite like Thiago. He doesn't have the penalties and those extra routes to points, but I just think it's the exact reason why I wanted Florian Wirtz on my wild card a fortnight ago, because I wanted some piece of the Liverpool attack. So I definitely can understand it and accept why you're making that choice. So that is all good with me. Now, we're going to get to Andrew's question before I go through my plans for this week. Need a defender, as always, Bogle or Frimpong. Now, I don't love the Frimpong shout because I just can't trust his body, but
I don't like the Bogle shout either. I understand that his 0.02 ownership and Leeds' fixtures are decent, but Rodon I don't think is that much
Rodon's 75%. He's 3.9%. Rodon is just a nice, steady Eddie defender with, like, he played 86 minutes against City and only had 4 DC, which is quite unlike a Rodon. But I think City's a bit of a different beast to play against. I would like to see the numbers, whereas he'd gone 2-4-3, 4-2 before that, 4-6 before that as well. So I think Joe Rodon is a nice option there. I don't think defense is the place to be differential, though, personally. I think you want to be differential potentially in your forwards or your mids where you can get high ceiling scores. I think in defense, you want a bit more predictability with what you're getting. That's just my view on that one. So
I definitely agree. In terms of like ownership and where I would go if you are, really wanting to go with a defender for this fixture run in, there's a couple of places I would go. Now, look, these are all rogue. So, Andrew, if they don't pay off or, you take this with a pay and assault, you're putting me on the spot. There's a couple spots. So first things first is I would look for a defender that has a fixture in 31 to save you that transfer in 2 weeks. And then you're probably looking for anyone with 5% ownership or less that are playing for a decent defense or really good attack. So first one that comes to my mind is Frimpong right-hand side wouldn't touch, but Kirkers is getting a lot of minutes on the left-hand side and is getting very high. So if you wanted to go Liverpool defense because they got some good fixtures, Kirkers would be the one. I still think Van Dijk's a much better option back there, but anyhow. I think the other place that I would go, right, and the main reason is I would go there is I would go rogue, and I know I said fixture in 31. If you got 11 playing players, I think for 3.4% ownership, Mateus Nunes is highly under-owned and looks the most nailed out of the wing backs, I would say. Out-Nuri looks pretty good too, and I don't know what his ownership is, but one of those two is where I'd punt if I'm looking for a City defender, good defense, and can get forward, potential for doubles, if you can bench him in 31. The only other places that I would go with is maybe...
I got a good one.
Pardon?
I got a good one.
You go, unless it's the same.
1% owned, Sepp Vandenberg.
We're looking at the same bloke.
Yeah, goes Bournemouth away, Wolves home, Leeds away, Everton home, Fulham home, Man United away, West Ham home up to 35. I think
Correct.
Great DC potential, not much attacking threat, but if you get a clean sheet with DC, he will be fine. So I like him a lot. And on that note, I want to transition to my team because everyone knows that I owned 2 Brentford defenders. And once again, that has also been something that the last 2 weeks has burnt me.
Yep.
But I now own 1. So I now own 1 Brentford defender and I now own 2 Brentford attackers. So I didn't really want to make the transfer that I had to make this week, but I needed to do something. So I can't remember. Who did I get rid of? I'm losing my mind.
Your transfers.
Oh, look, Wirtz.
Yeah.
All right. I had to deal with Wirtz, which I didn't really want to deal with, but I needed to address that situation. And this is where I was getting back to with the midfielder chat. I really didn't love the options this week. That's why I knew I was going to talk about the midfielders. And Dango just screamed to me, he could be an absolute animal on this run home. Now, is he a perfect 90-minute man? Not typically. He has been recently, but he played 71 against Burnley. But he's come back from AFCON. He's also right at the end of Ramadan. There's a few things going on with Dango Atara at the moment. So I think in a night game, he's going to be fine because he's going to be able to eat before the game and drink before the game. I look at this fixture run: Bournemouth, Wolves, Leeds, Everton, Fulham, United, West Ham. There should be goals. And if there's goals for Brentford, it should be Dango and Thiago. I obviously own Kelleher, which meant I then turned into Virgil van Dijk for me. I hate the fact that a few weeks ago I sold him and then he's gone on this run. I think I sold him around this period here, Wolves, Leeds.
Yep.
Sold him and then he's gone 1, 6, 2, 9, 4, 0, 17, 11, 7. Like a bit more of the verge of old, which is interesting. Andy with an interesting shout there of Kevin Sharder. I know
Andy.
you've been big on Sharder this year, Andy. There's just something eye test wise for me with Dango that I just love him as a footballer. But in order for me to bring in Verge, I think I couldn't get to Sharder potentially because I've only got 0.7 left in the bank. And I reckon Sharder's around that, 7 mil bracket, isn't he? If I go Brentford and Sharder, the difference between Dango and Sharder is $1 million. So I was priced out as well. But I think I wanted 2 assets from Brentford. And then Christoph Ayer just had to be the person to be sold. So I was going to make 2 transfers regardless. And it was, I think, Virgil. There's a little bit of Liverpool bias, but it's also the fixtures for Virg. I know it hurts, it stings. He scored, he's got returns in these games, and I've not owned him. But when you look at Wolves, Tottenham, Brighton, Fulham, Everton, Palace, Brentford, there should be some clean sheets in there, especially at Anfield. We are fighting for our Champions League lives at the moment as well for qualification. So I like picking teams at this point of the season that have something to play for. And I think, we've started to find some form as a side with some players coming back. Maybe I'm just stretching, but what I also liked was it gives me 2 rocks in my defense to then play the rotation. And Damo, I sent you this rotation today, didn't I?
You did
if
indeed.
I go to
it's
Hub,
a very good rotation.
And this is why I loved the pick, right? So Hub this week wants me to play Rodon over Haaland. There's no way I'm starting like that. And if I do start my team, I'm starting it like this. So Haaland will start. It won't be Thiago captain. I will back the Bruno Fernandes captain. I am very safe when it comes to my captaincy. It's very rare that I go off of it, even though I captained Palmer the other week against Burnley, which bit me in the ass. But that's how I'll line up this week. I don't love the Kelleher versus Hill, but I don't really have another option this week. I don't really want to play Dubravka either. So next up, it's in 30. And if I optimize here, I get Hill playing Burnley away. I've got Rodon against Palace away. So I've got a good option to make there. And then this is where it just starts really churning over. 31, Hill plays Man United at home. That's fine. I can live with that. 32, Diouf gets Wolves at home. Again, I think that's an opportunity for Diouf to get a return. In 33, Rodon becomes the option against Wolves at home. And then it's Leeds at home through Hill. Then it's Burnley and Crystal Palace. And they're actually saying Virgil hits the bench. So, I could look at someone else being benched in that game week. So pretty well all the way through. I've got a defender that I'm pretty keen on playing. So Rodon would then play Tottenham, Brighton, and then West Ham to finish the season. So it sets the defense up in a really, really good spot. So that is where I'm at with my side. So hopefully some green arrows are back. I can see the chat is absolutely bouncing. So get your questions in. Let me just catch up on what's going on.
As Paul catches up, let me just read out what that rotation is, because I understand watching it and trying to keep along can sometimes be a little bit interesting. His third defender goes Brentford at home, Burnley away, United at home in 31, Wolves home, and then Wolves home again as that third defender, Leeds home, Palace home, Spurs away, Brighton home. I think when you look at that fixture on A, you got some really good fixtures at home for your third defender, and B, like Spurs away, Brighton at home, Palace at home, all games where the opposition can definitely score against that third defender, but teams that are naturally aggressive, which will allow for DC. That's why I think that rotation is really important. And if you're someone that's played their wild card, like myself and like you have now, Paul, thinking for that longer term with some DC options and having good rotation really will help you save those transfers to be more aggressive for when City do get that double.
Yeah. And when I looked at my defense and it was Aya, Hill, Rodon, Diouf, it didn't fill me with as much confidence as I would have liked. Now that it's Virgil, meant I had to sacrifice Wirtz to do it. But the sacrifice of Wirtz to Dango doesn't hurt me as much as I think it might. So anyway, so will Haaland be ready to play Wednesday? God knows. He looked like he was at training. There was some photos taken of him yesterday at training, doing some prehab and stuff. So I don't know. Forest at home. He probably plays 60, like you said, and if they're winning, he comes off. Or 45, like they did at Fulham. So
if you missed it earlier, Jay, I said that I think he plays 60 and I wouldn't captain him this week because I think he plays limited minutes. If I was all of us, I would start him on the starting in your 11, but I wouldn't captain him and I wouldn't make him VC either.
Yeah. And if you are new guys here, make sure you are liking and subscribing as well. We would really appreciate it. We are knocking on the door of 200 subscribers. So if you want to be number 200, now's your chance. So I would have brought in a Brentford mid, but have Ryan and Hill don't want double against each other. I'm in that position this week as well, Andrew, because I've got Kelleher in goal. I've got Dango and Thiago, and I'm starting Hill. Sometimes you just have to wear it and just pray that Brentford can win 2-0. He'll get DC, and I walk away with a Dango Thiago assist to Kelleher clean sheet and a Hill DC. I'm asking for a little bit there, but I think sometimes you have to play the best players. Like, I can't really play Krupi. Rodon's flagged, and I don't want to play Diouf against Fulham. So I'm kind of hamstrung with who I've got. So I don't know, Dave. What are your thoughts on players playing each other?
Like, obviously, Andrew asked the question earlier about differential defenders, right? Which kind of alludes to, that Andrew wants to have a team that probably has high upside and, has potential to chase his rank quite massively. I think if you're thinking like this, Andrew, you definitely can still attack this fixture with multiple players because it's going to make your long-term team much better because the fixtures for Brentford and Bournemouth are fantastic. What I will say is it's generally, if you are making transfers this week, to try and not have too many double ups. So I think the question would be, who would you go for instead in the middle of the park? And if that option is got decent fixtures and is going to be useful for yourself, aka like Garner, because I think he's pretty good at Everton, pretty good for DC, fixtures, pretty good away from home, then I would understand that. But if you're someone that's like, you know what, no, the best option I think for me long-term is a Brentford midfielder. It just sucks that they're playing against Bournemouth. I hear. Like, I'm the same. I've got Thiago playing against Senesi and Hill at the back. One Thiago goal basically kills my back, two of my back four this week. But hopefully they do well enough to get DC in this game. So,
I agree.
Sometimes you can't help it.
Let's have a look. Let's keep on moving. Any other questions here? What do we got? Where are we? 200 subs. Thank you, Jackie. Hill got 0 DC in the second half last week. Crazy stuff. I think we spoke about this a little bit earlier, Andrew, as well, that the game that Bournemouth were playing, they were the team that was on top. So it was very much not suited to that type of game. So let us know, guys, what questions you've got. The deadline is in not even less than 12 hours. We're like 10 hours away from a deadline. Get your questions in, guys. We are here to help you guys pack through that. All right, next one. What do we think on Krupi? Evan Nilsson might be benched, so I could start him over Lafie or Anderson. So I'm assuming that's Fulham Anderson. Krupi. The worry I have with Krupi this week is I think Evan Nilsson scoring off the bench hurts a little bit. But Iraola really is backing Krupi, isn't he? Like in this starting 11. I think they've made a real shift. Yeah.
And I don't think Evan Nilsson's 100% fit to play 90 anyway. Now, Evan Nilsson could theoretically start and then come off the bench for Krupi. I just think if he was to play Evan Nilsson, it's happened before, Krupi will move into the 10, which I think is Krupi's best role anyway. Would I play Krupi over Enzo Lafay this week? Yes, I would. I would take Krupi at home to Brentford over Enzo Lafay. I can't remember who Sunderland actually have off the top of my head. I can find that out though. Sunderland have Leeds away. It's close. I'd still probably take the home fixture. Leeds away is proving to be a pretty difficult fixture for a lot of sides. And we mentioned Sunderland's XG problems, even though it cost me on my bench boost. But, before the last game week, their XG for the last 5 game weeks was 19. So I wouldn't play Enzo Lafay. A lot of that comes from obviously getting a penalty, does get some DC. Now, if it's Anderson at Fulham, 100%. Anderson at Forest, I would still probably go Krupi, but you alluded to the fact even if City go ballistic, Anderson's going to probably hit his DC and get 4 points in this game week. And do I think Krupi will outscore 4 points this game week? Potentially, but I would probably bank the 4 points and start Elliot Anderson.
Yeah, I think even because it's against Man City, we spoke about that earlier. We said that I think the floor is a 3-pointer. DC, maybe a yellow card. And the ceiling could be anything beyond that. So I think safe option now is you go with Elliot Anderson there. Interesting question, and I hope, Andy, you're still here for this one. I have the money to go Sharda over Dango, thinking more of a differential. Damo, now where do you sit on this fence? Sharda versus Dango.
I want you to bring up the Brentford heat map again, if we could, please.
I can bring up the heat map image
because I think a lot of the chat weren't here for when we went through that discussion. As always, guys, the pod is up in video form, not even 5 minutes after it processes from us ending. Highly recommend we always go through some of these breakdowns. Now, Sharda's fantastic. The point I made earlier, and I'll try and make the same point again, is Brentford play with a traditional 9. When you look at a lot of teams, the 9 drops into the middle of the park. And it's the 10 that's highest forward. Morgan Rogers at Villa, Bruno Fernandes at United. You watch City, and Haaland's always, that little bit deeper as well. Igor Thiago is a traditional 9. What this impact has to Sharda and Dango is what Damsgaard does in the 10. He gets real close to Thiago to create an overload. And more than that, it's Jensen that comes more forward than Yarmaluk into the middle of the park, and they create heavily down that left-hand side, which means Sharda's a link option, right? And Sharda's someone that is going to be in between those spaces, linking up play, probably has some good assist threat, will still get goal threat as well. But again, when you look for Dango, and where I believe the upside of Dango is that right-hand side is solely for him to run at his man, be one-on-one. They link up and create here in the middle and the left-hand side of play. Switch out the Dango, beats his man one-on-one, goal-scoring opportunity, more assist threat. The fact that Thiago's a traditional 9, as I mentioned, means when the ball gets out the Dango, unlike with some other teams, the first person that's arriving in that box is Thiago, Igor Thiago. Dango will probably be the one that will set him up in their way that they build up. Create the overload on the left, to get it out to the guy wide on the right, who'll be one-on-one with a stretch defense. So for me, I would go Dango over Sharda, but I think both are very good options, and you can't go wrong with either.
Yeah. All right. Whilst we're speaking about Brentford, is Thiago not at risk of being benched this week? Wasn't it a thing that he never played midweek? That is a good point, because he is coming off of a serious knee injury from last season. I think Brentford's push for Europe, they need him to play. Like, I think if you're going to rest him, you're going to rest him in the FA Cup at the weekend. I think they'll try and push him through and rest him at the FA Cup and give him that week's rest at the end of that. So that's just, I think the last midweek game Brentford had was Arsenal away, and I understand why they were going to bench him for that one and try and play a bit more free-flowing on the counter-attack. So that's what I'd be doing. Interesting one here. Let me get rid of the Brentford map now. Brought in DCL for Haaland. Should I also captain him? Now, that is a matchup against Sunderland, though. So, there's going to be goals there. I don't know if I could justify captaining DCL, but I don't mind the point there. So, that is where I'm at. Now, whilst we're speaking, I'll go on it, Damo, quickly.
I was going to say, if you've sold Haaland for DCL, kudos, because I do think with game week 31 being a blank and he potentially could miss this game week, it is viable to sell Haaland right now. Would I go DCL? I don't know. But if you do, mate, you got to come back next stream and let us know, because if it goes pop it off, I really hope you
we need to see
pour into that 80.
next
And
video.
that's the thing. If you're someone that does not care about your rank, right? We're chasing rank. We're going to help you make your best decisions to chase rank. We can't tell you what to do. It's up to you. But if you're someone that is a casual, does not care, but you're playing against mates and you want to try and beat them and you're 80 points back, nothing stops you from going with DCL. And if he goes and gets a Rivy, which for those that watch Dr. Benny scores 4 goals in this game, mate, I'm here for it. So off you go.
I just want to jump back to the Thiago chat because there's been a few comments come in. So I will come back to the other comments at the top. So from Rob SAFC, which I'm assuming Sunderland, he played midweek against Sunderland just after Christmas. So again, important game, has done that. And then Andy, once again, Thiago hasn't been rested in Premier League apart from that Arsenal game. He's been a machine. So I think the Thiago benching stuff I wouldn't worry about as much as we've spoken about. Interesting, we've got another comment here about DCL. Is DCL by far the best Haaland replacement, assuming you have Thiago and Ekitike, or does Bowen deserve a shout? I've been hot on Bowen. I don't mind the savings you get from DCL. So I feel like without, again, as Damo said, without telling you what to do, I think there's a world where, I'm going to go back to this view now that we're just on our screen. I think there's a world where it depends on what that money does for you. If that's the last piece to your team, I think Bowen is a great shout for the rest of the season. West Ham's fixtures aren't shocking. And he's a talisman player. Yes, he's now playing more on that right-hand side, but I really think I would trust his body a little bit more than I would trust Calvert-Lewin personally. What would you say, Damo?
Look, definitely agree with everything. And plus, Bowen traditionally has had his best seasons from an FPL point of view and just Premier League playing on the right, coming inside onto his left foot. And that's where he's back. I think West Ham look really good. Yes, look, they just played us. They lost 5-2. I still think they still played decent in this game too. And Somerville's causing issues, and they're looking a much better side. And I think they're the side that's probably most worrying Spurs at the moment, to be fair. If you're talking relegation fight, I really think Bowen deserves a shout. I think you either bring him in now for Fulham away, which interesting game, but they'll go. West Ham know that that's a 6-pointer for them. They have to win. City in 30, I wouldn't touch. 31 Villa, I think is not a bad point to get in, but their run home from 32 onwards: Wolves, Palace, Everton, Brentford, Arsenal in the last game, right, of the season. From 32 to 35, sorry, that's 36, apologies. From 32 to 35, I think he's fantastic. And 32, I think a lot of us will be looking to bring him in. If you're someone that holds their wild card till 32, 33, 34 to attack those doubles, I think he's definitely the best differential option under 10% ownership to bring in up front. I really rate him to the point where would I have brought in Calvert-Lewin this week or Bowen? I probably would have went Bowen on a coin flip, but it also big price difference as well.
Yeah, I agree. Before we continue, I just got to say a massive thank you, particularly to Andy, for giving us a shout out over on X, mate. It's just been more than we could ever ask for. We just appreciate having you in here on the odd Tuesday morning for you whilst you're working on your videos as well. So huge shout out to you and anyone that's come in and liked the stream, subscribed and interacting in the chat. For us, this is exactly why we do it. We want to connect with the RFPL community, which is massive. So thank you very much once again. Couple other little points before I don't know. Here we go. All right, Colm. Let's get back to Colm. I don't really know what I really want from my Brentford and Bournemouth assets this luck, people, regarding DCL. Wasn't he rested midweek? I think the DCL resting is more likely than anything. DCL was rested against us. I think what I've noticed in these games for strikers like that who are off long-term injuries that are that have had history of injuries, they get rested in games where they're kind of already accepting, all right, a draw today is a good result, and we'll bring them on the bench just in case we need them, more so than we're going to go and attack and do the job that way. So I think now that it's crunch time and, you know, you're talking relegation and Europe pushes and things, I think clubs will start to say, let's push these main players for us because these are winnable games for Brentford and Leeds this week. So hopefully that's covered the majority of what we've covered there through the chat. So if you have got any more questions, I'm going to do one more call out to questions. It is getting late over here in Australia. We do start at 8 p.m. our time. So we will do a roundup of what we're looking at this week in our transfer plans. Damo, would you like to jump ahead first?
Yeah, I've also put something else in the chat if you want to do that too, because I know that we've got a lot of new viewers, and maybe give everyone a snapshot very quickly of what we do at the start of our streams, because I know there's a lot of new people in here. For those that are wondering, an hour and 15 minutes time previously from now is when we do our stream every Tuesday. As Paul reads that chat and says yes or no to that, for those that don't know, me and Paul are from Australia. We are from little down Adelaide. Dom, who's on holiday today as well, is here. It's usually us three. We're nowhere near FPL experts, but just blokes that like to talk about it, FPL, and obviously like to discuss. And we've had some good, decent ranks, Paul, about nothing crazy. None of us have had top 20, top 15 Ks, but a lot of top 100s, and do pretty well in our paid leagues mostly. But with that being said, you have said yes to that. So would you like to run us through the first faller this week? Because it is quite funny. And I just want to bring
let's quickly get up our mini league. So if you head over to Chasing Rank, over on X as well, you will see a link or a code to our Chasing Ranked League. So I've got to quickly load up everyone's teams here. So let me share screen. This is it. So Dom, who runs our Twitter page, is our biggest faller of the week with a 32 on the game week for him. So he did not have a great game week at an 11 mil rank. So that is his team. So you'll see Dom hopefully next Tuesday when we are streaming once again. But where am I? I need to get back to
as you get into yourself, for those that don't know, at the start of all our streams, we actually start with a segment called Fallers or Ballers, and we'll pick 3 players that were our fallers this week that really hurt us, and our ballers that were, pivotal with us having a great game week or scored our most points, and gives us a way to discuss the game week with a little bit of a more friendly vibe than us rambling for 20 minutes. And as you can see, Paul had an air week, and he'll talk you through it right now.
Yeah, hit the average this week, guys. 53 points for me. So my baller three ballers were my 3 players that returned. Bruno Fernandes, huge with the VC, coming in for Erling Haaland, Gabriel, and Thiago. Bit unlucky, copped the Haaland as everyone would have, and the Florian Wirtz. And my fallers would have been a Christoph Ayer, a Morgan Rogers, and a Cole Palmer. So I was the second highest scorer of the week, and Damo was our top scorer. So run us through it quickly before we get into our transfer plans.
Yep, perfect. There we go. If you keep it like that, looks like a great game week, doesn't it? My faller this week is me. For those that don't know and didn't watch, obviously, last week's stream, I made 5 free transfers this game week coming to bench boost. Main reason I did is I had Kroopy and I had Kroopy on the bench, and I had Hill on the bench. And I thought, look, Sunderland in the last 5 game weeks, 19 in XG. Worst case scenario is they keep Bournemouth keep a clean sheet. He'll get at least 4 points, 6 points plus DC because he's been doing it amazingly. Kroopy should start play and hopefully score against the Sunderland side. That has been great. Unfortunately, not going to plan here. Dubravka concedes $1 million. Haaland doesn't play. Hill doesn't get any DC in the second half, which is crazy, and I can never pronounce his name. I call him Mickey 4 because I just love saying Mickey 4. But Tao, whatever his name is.
Like saying Chow.
Chow. Yeah, Chow Bella. Chow Bella out my team. He has been horrid. But he's still there. Anyhow, ballers for me. I did part of my 5 free transfers. Didn't go for Wirtz, but went Gravenberch because DC. I'm a big DC guy. And he got 5 points with an assist. Didn't even hit his DC. Bought Virgil in as part of my 5 free transfers as well that I used, and that was great. And obviously, captaining Bruno Fernandes really helped me. And that probably alludes us into what our transfers are for this game week, Paul.
Yeah, I'm happy to fire away first if you like.
Yeah, go ahead,
so
mate.
For me, 2 transfers for me this week had to deal with Florian Wirtz, which was frustrating because I wildcarded particularly to get him in. So Wirtz out, Dango in, and Ayer had to go, which I didn't love, but he hadn't returned in those 2 weeks either. I've already covered the Brentford defense with Kelleher, and I've got Thiago. So my transfers are pretty simple. It was 1 Liverpool asset out, 1 Liverpool asset in, 1 Brentford asset out, 1 Brentford asset in. I just shifted it from defense to midfield. So I was just sliding those through. which are my 2 transfers this week. I've seen a couple questions coming through, guys. We will get to those just as Damo does his transfers for this week. Do you just want to talk through it, Damo, by bringing up yours, or do you want me to bring your team up and talk through it?
No, I've got it here, mate. There you go. If you share it in, it should be all.
And then we'll answer the last couple of questions, and then we'll jump off.
Now, Paul, you can allude to this. I said this earlier in the stream as well, but we'll allude to it again very quickly. We made a pact last year to not take a hit at all in fantasy, and me and you achieved that last season, which was great. Made the same pack, and I have unfortunately broke it this game week because I'm taking my first hit in 1 season and 28 game weeks of play.
Yeah, I think I made one earlier this season, but I had to deal with carnage.
Yeah. But look, sometimes you do it for whatever reason. As you guys can see from my ballers and fallers side, Morgan Rogers, someone we spoke a lot about on this pod. I didn't want to sell him because I have a lot of affiliation to Morgan, but I've sold him down to Anderson because he has a great long-term fixture run for a DC merchant. Now, I get to hide him on my bench this game week with how it plays out, but Fulham's great for DC and it's at home. Spurs is great for DC and they're not any good. Villa are a naturally aggressive side, so good for DC. Burnley's a fantastic fixture just in general for Anderson. And then Sunderland away, Chelsea away, Newcastle at home, United at home, and Bournemouth at home. All teams that will naturally come out, be aggressive, and allow for Anderson to tick over with that DC monster. So I think for, the run home, there's 8 game weeks that I would be comfortable in saying that he will probably get DC in. 7 of the 8. That's 4 points as a base. Throw in anything else that he does. Absolutely fantastic. So, yes, Morgan Rogers, maybe that more flary pick. This allows me to free up some funds, and those funds are for Hugo Ekitike. Now, we did speak about strikers previously. I think he's looked sensational. I would love to have Florian Wirtz, but obviously injured. This fixture run for Liverpool is amazing. The week to pick him up was last week. I couldn't, but Wolves at home, Wolves away, Spurs at home. Brighton have looked very hit and miss. Fulham again, I think, is a side that we should target. Palace have looked leggy all season. And yeah, look, I think it's a great time to pick him up. It's my first hit. And the reason I'm hitting is he's also my differential captain for the week. My bench boost sold me down the drain, but I think that this is a great week to be a little bit differential. And I think he is the best captaincy by far this game week, which I know is a little bit brave to say, but I do think that hence why I've taken the hit. And hopefully he goes bags a hat-trick for me in game week 29.
Beautiful. And just as Andy's signing out, so thank you very much, Andy, for joining us once again and getting our name out there over on X as well, which is much appreciated as I'm fumbling my way through reorganizing the screen. So thank you very much once again for joining us on a Tuesday. Last couple of questions before we call it. I've seen these ones a couple of times. So we are down to the final 10 game weeks of the season. Should we continue playing the same way or start going differential? I think with blanks and doubles coming, I don't think it's time to start swinging for the fences. I think we can hold ground for a couple of weeks and really attack those blanks and doubles that are coming sort of game week 31, 34, 33, 36. That's when I'd start getting super aggressive. So don't lose your season now would be my recommendation. Try and hold ground for a couple of weeks. Try and pick out some really good fixtures like we've spoken about, Brentford, Bournemouth in particular. I think you want to have assets from both of those sides amongst all those a bit more stable picks. I would not just start bringing random guys in that are low owned, praying for pop scores is what I'd be doing. I want to get your thoughts on this one, Damo. 50-50 if Rice will be playing. Think a better choice would be Eze. Very different players. What are your thoughts when you see that?
Look, there's 2 thoughts. Firstly, if 50-50 Rice will be playing, from what I've read briefly, it's close. I think they need to play him because they're in this title fight. No one wants to be in a dogfight with City. I said the exact same thing earlier. Do I think Eze is the better choice? Great question. If he starts, yes. Is there a guarantee that he starts? Unsure. I think Eze is the best in his 10, but there's a man called Odegaard, and
he's the captain.
I think Odegaard has to play 10 because he's your captain. So I think it's tough to go to Eze. As we mentioned when we broke down the Arsenal game, I think if you're someone that wants Arsenal assets, and by the way, they got a blank in 31, don't go buy Arsenal assets right now. You probably want 2 defenders, and that's probably about it. Or Declan Rice with a defender. I think if you've got Rice, if you've got a really good bench, you bench him. And if he goes and pops off and plays 70 and gets like 15 points, very unlucky, right? If you're someone that doesn't have a great bench but have players that will play on the bench, I think he's worth a start, because I think this is a game where Declan Rice will start and play, or he won't come on at all, and they'll just full rest him. So that's my view.
Yeah, I wouldn't be buying in just yet, personally. I think I'd be waiting and seeing. Good comment here as well. Don't forget that Havertz could potentially play in the 10 as well. So there are options there. I think you can go Eze if you have the wild card in the bank. I don't mind that as a point, as a short-term option, but I just think at that price, there's better short-term punts anyway, personally. So
I think the wild card comment's really important. We've mentioned a bit of time in today's pod, last week's pod. A lot of your transfers now would be dependent on your chip strategy. Me and Paul have used our wild cards. Mine because my team was a shambles. Paul because he was being aggressive and it's backfired a little bit from him. But how often are you inside the top 50K and trying to get top 10K? I can swinging for the fences is a beautiful time to do it when you're in that spot. I think if you got a wild card, and if you got 3 or 4 transfers and a wild card, you could be super aggressive. So back to the differential question, you are in a position of power where, you can maybe go that little bit differential, go and pick up an Eze or maybe a couple of these other low ownership guys, because you can get yourself out of trouble. You're 1 wild card away, 4 free transfers away. You can do what you like, right? If you're someone like me and Paul, I'm taking a hit and don't have a wild card, right? You've got to go with the good fixtures and probably be a little bit more pragmatic. Build that base of a team before you go swinging from the fences last 3 game weeks.
Yeah, I agree. And I think the last comment we're going to get to, Andy, Let's Talk FPL sent me. I think he sent a lot of people over to us tonight. That's where we are going to leave things. I know the chat is at the highest it's been, or not so far for tonight, but in a general stream for us. We have gone almost half an hour over what we normally do because of obviously, we want to connect with you guys. So if you have enjoyed one aspect of our stream tonight and you've hung around from that initial influx that you're obviously active on Twitter from when Andy posted a little shout out for us, please make sure you like, comment and subscribe. It really does help us out. We do stream every Tuesday at 8 p.m. Australian Central Standard Time, ACST. It roughly works out to be about 11 o'clock GMT, I think. So please, if you just go back an hour and a half from where your current time zone is and you want the start time, typically I have the stream sort of preloaded during the, overnight for you guys. So you should be able to wake up most Tuesdays and see when the stream is ready to go. So on your way out, guys, if you could like, comment and subscribe, it would help us massively. We are sitting at 26 likes. 29 likes on the stream. If we could even push that up to 35, that would be absolutely fantastic. And I just have to thank you guys massively. We've gained almost 40 subscribers tonight, which is massive. 30 subscribers tonight. So if 9:30 GMT, thank you, Jackie. I knew it was close in there. So if you guys could just leave a little subscription on the way out. We've been doing this for a year and a bit. Grinding away with, it's obviously not our job. So we do this clearly for the love of the game and we want to connect with people. So across X, Chasing Rank, Dom, our third co-host, isn't on tonight. He runs that, the X channel. You've got, and me and Damo are pretty active over there as well on Twitter at Damo_23 and Paulie29. So feel free to follow those socials. I don't like doing the standard call outs all the time, but I think tonight's a bit of an exception for us. So we appreciate you guys asking all your questions. We're going to be here every week. Welcome to our Australian friends as well. Welcome to everyone else that's joined us tonight. We are going to be going to bed tonight waiting for Haaland news. But Damo, any last quick comments before we get off? Bang on an hour and a half.
No, thank you for being here. It's probably our most hyped FPL stream I've ever done. Obviously, Paul's streamed plenty of stuff previously and had some probably amazing moments, and in my second profession I've had some amazing moments of course as well on stream, but this is something that we love doing and love having a chat with, and to have this interaction on an FPL channel, we just hope to see you guys again, and if we can help you 1%, great. And if you want to come in here and bag us, we'd probably have a laugh as well, being Aussie as well. That is all well and good.
And Adama, we don't hate you because you're a Victorian. That's just banter.
Yes, that is banned. For those that don't know, that's an Adelaide United Melbourne Victory thing. But yeah, all good.
All right, that's where we're going to leave things tonight, guys. So once again, thank you for the engagement tonight, and we'll see you guys hopefully next week for a big recap of midweek fixtures and FA Cup.